break that right there? Not?
Well, not in your hand.
Just give a good swing.
Huh? No. I don't want to cut you. I don't want to cut you.
You're not going to do that?
I don't want to cut you.
So if I do that, would you go on to that?
Oh, then it might fly and hit somebody
Might fly and
else.
sit. You're worried about collateral damage?
Yeah.
You're worried about people? Why?
Gentle.
Like we might be hurt if you did that? But I mean, the glass would just break. Go ahead. That's okay. I didn't want you to break it anyway. This is my favorite glass. I didn't. Go ahead. Give Amanda a hand. Thank you. So this morning in the earlier service, I gave this to Brian Schoolcraft, and he, without hesitation, went. And I was like, "Dude, come on! What's wrong with you?" And it's just not a real judgment on Brian. But here's my thing. I don't know about how you were feeling at that moment. How many of you in the room were worried she was actually going to do it? Anyone concerned about that? How many of you were like, "Nah, she's not going to do it"? How many of you were getting ready to run up here and rescue the glass because you were worried that it might be done? I was worried that it might be done. And here's my point. I have all this emotional energy. My adrenaline begins to rise up when I think about someone crushing a glass that I know is fragile and I know will break, and I know repairing it is next to impossible. And yet, I will quite easily use words that break someone's spirit and are far more difficult to repair moving on into the future. And people whose souls are just as fragile. And I don't have a problem with that. Why is that? Why do we feel that way? See, here's our lesson in fragility. We believe that people are just going to be okay, but maybe we can break them with the words we use in the conflicts we enter. I heard a story at one point in time about a guy who was a faithful church-going guy. He was married, and he and his wife were faithful in their church. They had a daughter, and the whole family was faithful in the church. They went every time they had an opportunity. They were part of a small group in the church. The guy served in a ministry capacity in the church. He was a volunteer at some level, and his wife was a volunteer at some level. And at one point in time, he got reconnected with an old high school flame and fell in love with this new woman and moved out of his house and into her place in the same town. And so now we've got the wife who's been left behind with the daughter still at the church, and the guy who's gone to the new wife, new woman, the one he wants to marry, but the divorce isn't final. And he's in this new place, in this new arrangement, and the church says, we need to restore this relationship somehow. We need to restore this person. And listen, I don't know how they did it. I don't know what levels they went to try to bring restoration or to try to address this situation. I don't know if they were gentle or not. All I know is the story culminated one evening when the church sent 2 or 3 guys from the church, representatives of the church, over to the new woman's house where the guy was living. And they knocked on the door, they were invited in, they came in, they sat down, and the agenda for the evening was to try to get him to leave then and to bring him home to his wife and daughter. And I don't know if they were being gentle. I don't know any of the circumstances. All I do know is that event was reported to me as the straw that broke the camel's back. In that moment, that guy was broken. He shut himself off from communication with his wife, shut himself off from communication with that church or any church, and would not go back to any church or have anything to do with God's people for years. Now, was he in the wrong? Yes. Was he committing a sin? Yes. Was he caught in sin? Yes. Did the church do the right thing to try to resolve the situation, to try to restore him? Yes. We can look at it from a factual perspective and say all the right things were on the right side of the equation. I mean, we knew what was right and what was wrong. People knew what was right and what was wrong. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, the guy was broken because he was caught in sin. And Paul is trying to say, if someone is caught in sin, they can be broken. Be gentle. Now, if we apply that to any other conflict, basically, we're saying, okay, the process of restoration might be different, but the command to be gentle is the same. I think we, as people, need to adopt this principle that I call Principle H on how to deal with conflict, and it's simply this: handle with care. The symbol on your note sheet, the symbol on the screen, is the universal symbol of a fragile something or other. Handle with care. When we enter into a conflict conversation, we need to handle with care them and us. We're going to look at a few things here, but what I want to draw your attention to now is just a quotation from this book that I've referenced a couple times. The book, again, is called Crucial Conversations. These guys have put in 25 years of research, and so modern research tells us this. Here's the quote. We're suggesting that people rarely become defensive simply because of what you're saying. They only become defensive when they no longer feel safe. You see, ultimately, we know we're fragile. We know we're fragile people. We know they're fragile people. The reason we use violent words towards other people is because we want them to break. We want them to feel the pain. And the reason we resort to silence or violence or doing things that protect us from conflict is that we know we're fragile. Because ultimately, the reason I'm in a conflict with anyone is because my soul carries something deep. And your soul carries something deep. And they're in opposition with each other. And if I didn't care about the thing, I wouldn't care about this conflict. But because I care about it, because I hold it deep in my soul, and because you hold it deep in your soul, that's why we face conflict with each other. But because it's in my soul, I have a chance of feeling like I'm attached to it. And if that idea gets lost or attacked, then I get lost or broken. And in my sense of fragility, I attack your sense of fragility. And yet Paul would say, be gentle and watch yourself. The scholars will say, people get defensive when they don't feel safe. So here's a summary statement. According to modern research, the most important thing you can do in the midst of a crucial conversation is to keep the situation safe. Keep the situation safe. Well, how do you do that? How do I help someone else feel safe? The real practical stuff comes at the end, but before we get there, I want to show you what Solomon says. See, modern research shows us one thing, but Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, wrote a whole book with a whole bunch of wisdom in it, and in chapter 15 and 16, there's some very interesting things he says about dealing with conflict. Let me show you these verses. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Now, I'm fascinated by this. Someone else in a conflict with you, and they're beginning to get angry and upset. And the Bible tells us that a gentle answer can turn away their wrath. It tells us that a harsh word will stir up more anger. Most of us should nod our heads at how obvious this is. Okay? This is obvious stuff, except for the fact that I don't think we believe that a gentle answer will turn away their wrath. What we believe is a gentle answer proves I'm weak. A gentle answer means they win. A gentle answer means they're going to keep coming at me and keep coming at me until I turn back to the harsh words. But the Bible tells us a gentle word can turn away wrath. Keep going. Look at the next thing. It says a hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who's patient calms a quarrel. This isn't about my words. This is about the condition of my heart. Is my heart in a condition of temper? Or is my heart in a condition of patience? Because patience is the heart condition that leads for a quarrel being calmed. Keep going. It says, the hearts of the wise make their mouths prudent. And here both heart and mouth are joined together. And their lips promote instruction. Gracious words are honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. I believe this is a promise in God's word to us, that my heart and my words can be linked to change any conflict, to change any conversation from going down a bad path to coming back to a good path. In fact, this is the way I would put it. Write this down. The condition of my heart and the words of my mouth affect the safety of the moment. The condition of my heart and the words of my mouth affect the safety of the moment. How do you help someone else be safe? Something's got to be true in your heart. Something's got to be true in your mouth. And the thing that needs to be true in your heart, I believe, comes from a way for you personally to feel safe. So let's get the practical stuff now. Here's how you take it home. The first principle for what you need to do to take this home is you need to make it safe for yourself. When you're in a conversation, you need to make it safe for yourself. Okay? What is that all about? Well, I can't control what the other person says. That means I can't control if the other person is attacking me or not. That means my sense of safety cannot come from the other person's words, the other person's posture, the other person's attitude. My sense of safety has to come from somewhere else. And if we've done the hard work of the stuff in the F and the I and the G, I believe safety will be present for you. For example, if I do the hard work of figuring out what the problem is to begin with, then I enter into it saying, okay, I know what the real problem is, so if we get off on a tangent, I know I can bring it back to the real problem. Okay? Inspect yourself. If I've done the work of inspecting myself, now they can't attack me on anything because I've already revealed it to myself, and I'm going to begin the conversation by apologizing for that stuff. I'm going to begin the conversation by telling them that I know my part in this and I don't really want that to be a hindrance in our conversation anymore. So I'm going to do the work of inspection, and then the graciously get it all out means I'm just going to plan from the beginning that I'm going to be gracious. I'm going to show you all the love that God has given to me. And then the one last little piece. If God is with me, who can be against me? How do you make it safe for yourself? Do the hard work of preparation, and then when the moment comes, recognize that God is with you. God is with you. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, because they will be called sons of God." When we enter into a peacemaking relationship, God is present in that moment. Claim it. In other words, my safety comes from God. Here's the next piece, though. How do you make it safe for the other person? Make it safe for the other person? I'll show you this quote from the book that talks a little bit about safety. It says this: "The best